All right.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to San Antonio Zoo Center for Conservation and Research. My name's Becky Musher-Hodges. I'm the manager here, and today we're going to be taking a look at our super special reticulated flatwood salamanders. So pay no attention to this sign as we go inside and take a look at one of our latest and greatest hatching events that we've had. Now, these are reticulated flatwood salamanders. They are native to the southeastern United States. They were first described in 1950 and then separated out from a very similar species in 2007. Dr. Fenolio, our vice president in the department, has been working with these guys since 2009, 2010 when he was in Georgia, and he brought this project with him when he came to San Antonio. And now we are super excited to be the first institution ever to breed these guys in captivity from long-term captive larvae that we've also raised up. So, want to give a big shout out to our partners out there in this project. United States Fish and Wildlife, excuse me, Florida Wildlife Conservation Commission, Eglin Air Force Base, and Virginia Tech, all awesome partners that we're working with on this. So I will show you. This is an adult reticulated flatwood salamander, and this particular animal we acquired as a larva in 2016. So we raised them up, went through metamorphosis, and has lived here and grown and gotten big and healthy, and lives in an enclosure like this with 5 other salamanders. Now these are the adult salamanders that offered us our first eggs in captivity, and that led to our first hatching of the larvae of these guys. Now if you want to come over this, we've got some frozen thawed out Daphnia here that we're going to be feeding to our larvae today. So each one of these tanks has a filter, and the number of larvae inside each tank is listed in the corner, as well as the hatch date, so we can keep track of how everybody's progressing. And every day we go through and count, make sure everybody's here, do visual checks, make sure everybody's eating well. And we don't always see them eating right away. You see him, there's one. Look at that belly. Does anybody out there have any questions?
You have some cool tattoos.
So a little bit of history with these salamanders. They are considered critically endangered. They're probably one of the most endangered salamanders in the U.S. There's one stable population that happens to be on Eglin Air Force Base in Florida in the Panhandle. They used to range into Alabama and into Georgia, but that is no longer the case. We were very fortunate this year to acquire some more animals from a different location than what these animals are from, and so we're looking forward to keeping our genetic diversity. I'm on a leash here, guys, sorry.
Noah, who's 5, has a question. question. Do you know how fast salamanders can move?
Depends what's chasing them, I suppose, and depends on the salamander and if they're in the water. I could not give you miles an hour. Unrelated to this, I would like to give my super awesome neighbor Ava a birthday shout out. Her birthday is tomorrow. Happy birthday, Ava! So these guys live in longleaf pine forests in the Panhandle. There's normally seasonal burning that happens, and they rely on seasonal rains to be able to reproduce. These guys live underneath the ground, usually in like crayfish burrows, and then they come out, October through December time frame, and mate and lay their eggs in anticipation of the rain. So if the rain doesn't come, which is the trigger to hatch the eggs, when they flood, then those salamander eggs don't make it. And all of our animals that we have here are what is considered a salvage operation. These were very, very lucky eggs that happened to be found, and the rains did not come. So these eggs that these animals came from would have dried out before and never gotten a chance to hatch. These animals here were captive raised, and these were the first bred captive animals of this species. So we're super excited about that. From egg laying to maturity, those salamanders, the big one that I showed earlier, and I can show you again, we had as a larva, and usually it takes 3 to 4 months as a larva, and then they undergo metamorphosis, and it took these guys 4 years before they actually bred for us. All right, let's go see some slightly older ones. Actually, I'm going to put this guy back first. Now we temperature control this room so it mimics their natural environment, and also we can control the humidity for the adults with their grasses that we were generously gifted. These are native grasses, including hatpin, that came from Florida, from a member of FWCC that brought us these, and maybe that was one of the triggers that got these guys to breed for us. Who knows? We are working currently on writing a paper on the first successful reproduction of this species in captivity. So I know you guys are all going to be on the lookout for that when it's published. But this has been a group effort here. Everyone in our department, which is all of 6 people, have been fantastic and very diligent about our record keeping, their day-to-day care. There you go. And these guys make their own burrows in here. So there are now 6 of them in here again. They're a very secretive species, and you can see where they've made little holes in here underneath the grasses and in the dirt. So they will stay underground most of the time and come out for feeding and breeding. And there have been instances recorded of them sitting on top of grasses as much as 2 feet off the ground. So that's pretty good for a little salamander to crawl that high. So one of the biggest dangers facing these guys, other than human encroachment, is changing in the weather patterns. Because if those seasonal rains don't come to flood the areas where the eggs are. The eggs don't hatch. We have no more salamanders. Now, on the positive side of all this, talking about securing a future for wildlife, with these animals being saved from that sort of fate, we're now us breeding them in captivity. That gives us new hope that hopefully we will be able to work on a great genetically diverse population to reintroduce these guys into a portion of land that is in their native habitat, in their native range, in their historical range, and hopefully get them back out there where they belong. All right, let's go see a couple of other sections of salamanders. We keep salamanders everywhere. Now we have very special water that we make up for these guys that is specific to them. We use reverse osmosis water and then add chemicals back into the water to make sure that they get the nutrients that they need with the low pH that mimics their natural water. Other threats facing these guys can be weather-related, like tidal surge after a hurricane or something, because they are very close to the coast in Florida. Of course, I guess everything is kind of close to the coast in Florida. So if there was a storm surge and salt water could potentially flood their areas, and that's no good either. So here is where we have another group of salamanders from different area. Again, shh. So we keep everybody individually so we can keep track of how they're doing if we need to weigh them. They've got moss and an Indian almond leaf. They get misted with their special water. They get fed every other day a variety of foods, night crawlers and white worms, roaches, termites. Sometimes they can be a little picky, but they're all doing well. It's daytime, so most of them are hiding. If you come in here at night, sometimes you see them out on top of their leaves. Here's, maybe we keep track of where everybody's from. Let's see, where are you at? These guys were collected as eggs in December of 2017. Oh no, yes. And then they morphed in 2018. So you can see the size difference between this one and the adult. Still got some growing to do, but they're getting there. That fat tail, nice and chunky, good fat storage. So even if we don't see them eat, we know they're eating. All right, I've got one more broom to show you of reticulated flatwood salamanders from the panhandle of Florida, critically endangered species that we're working with alongside Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, United States Fish and Wildlife, Virginia Tech, and Eglin Air Force Base. These guys were super special to us. They're all super special to us, but these guys came to us again from a salvage mission. They were found in a rapidly drying up ditch and a pond in a point that was not where our other salamanders are from. So that's really cool for genetic diversity for us. They found these guys and raised them up through metamorphosis, and when they were done turning into little salamanders, we got them and we're so excited to have them. So this is what a newly morphed salamander looks like right there. See, their pattern is a little different. It changes slightly. If you remember looking at the larva, they had stripes, and as they change, their gills reduce, they climb out of the water, and they get that pretty silvery pattern. And that changes a little over time. All right. Well, thanks again for joining us here at the Center for Conservation and Research and our super awesome reticulated flatwood salamander collection. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out at sazoo.org, or if you want to drop a question on Facebook, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can with an answer. Thanks so much for joining us.